Welcome back to another episode of the Sideline Blitz here at CYA Sideline Podcast. You'll notice there's a much younger, better-looking person sitting in this seat. We're missing Mark, who's in Hawaii, enjoying the beautiful weather out there. But I got Scott and myself, Zack. We're here to talk a little football. So, Scott, talk to us a little bit what we got on the slate today.
Yeah, we're going to do a lot of the normal stuff. We'll probably touch on what we did wrong last week, which I was 0-2 on my picks. I'm going to own up to it. Then we'll do some college picks, some NFL picks, and we're going to talk a little bit about our fantasy sleepers and our sets for this week.
All right, yeah. We are not off to a great start in the NFL for lock. So we've done okay in some of the college, Scott, but we stink when it comes to the NFL. And I think it's always a little difficult early on, but at least we can own up to it.
That's right. That's right. Like I've said from the beginning, if you get on here and watch us, it's not a bad idea to fade us.
Absolutely. Especially myself right now. But we were close. There was a couple games where some weird things happened this week.
It is.
The NFL games, we had a lot of blocked field goals. A couple went for touchdowns that swung some games in a different direction. So
I'm still kind of irked about the end of my pick last week. I thought the Rams were a lock, and they seemed like a lock all game. They were up big, and the Eagles just made their way back. Rams were trying to kick that field goal at the end of the game, and I just knew they could make it or miss it, and the Rams were going to cover.
Yeah, it was good.
But the only thing that couldn't happen was a blocked field goal for a touchdown by my boy Jordan Davis from the Eagles, rumbling and tumbling down the field, all 330 pounds of him for a touchdown that killed me, even though I like Jordan Davis a lot, but didn't want that to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's our recap from last week's pick. We're going to turn it over to the college games. It's a big slate this week in college football. A lot of ranked games. I know you're excited. We'll start with your game, Alabama, Georgia. What's your thoughts there? And let's go from there.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's a 2 TV night for me on Saturday night because they're running the two big games of the week concurrently.
Absolutely.
They're both night games, Alabama, Georgia, and Oregon, Penn State. So I wish they weren't on at the same time, but we're going to run two TVs and watch them both. But obviously, I'm most excited for Alabama and Georgia. Big Georgia fan because my son went there. My thoughts on this game, Alabama's won 9 of the last 10. They're looking a lot better than they did against Florida State these last couple of games. Ryan Williams is legit. Ty Simpson's playing well. I think he has 9 touchdowns, no interceptions so far this year. Frankly, outside of the one win that Georgia got in the SEC championship a couple years ago, Alabama's owned them.
Mm-hmm.
They really have.
Do you think playing in Georgia makes any difference, or do you think it's just Alabama? I'm an Alabama fan, so I'm leaning Alabama on this, and I'd love to see Alabama beat Georgia and kind of make a statement after losing to Florida State. But what do you think the advantage there is, or is it?
I think that's a big advantage, Zach. I think you're going to walk into Sanford Stadium. It's going to be loud. It's a night game. Everybody's going to be in red. That place has had all day to tailgate. They're going to be fired up. They're going to be ready to go. All that said, all that stuff about Alabama, I think Georgia wins. I'm putting my Georgia hat on. I got Georgia by 20 over Alabama.
Oh, my God.
Beat down.
Georgia by 20.
-2.5. Georgia by 20 over Alabama. Bank it. I'm predicting 4 rushing touchdowns for Georgia. I think they win that game on the ground. Stockton with 2. Nate Frazier with 2. Watch it and see what happens, baby. Go
20.
Dogs.
Oh, my God. I'm going to have to say we put lunch on that.
Okay, let's do it.
We got a little lunch bet. I've been pretty successful on my lunch bets. We had it a couple weeks ago with Mark and I. So I don't think it's a blowout. I would go Alabama. I would just take the points, 3.5. I think it's a dogfight. It's actually 2.5. Sorry, not 3.5. So I think Alabama covers. We'll go with that. Alabama will cover the spread. So I don't know if that means win it. It's a dogfight, but I just don't. I'm not sold on Georgia. There's all this hype normally around Georgia and the stacked first round draft picks and everything like that. And there's just no talk this year. Really? It's kind of.
I like the no talk. Actually, that gives them a little action.
Yeah,
right
a little
there.
less
Gives them fired up.
A little less pressure for them. I think there was a lot of pressure on Alabama early on coming out. I think they needed to do something after last year's showing with new coach and all that. And I think they underperformed against Florida State. I think Florida State's better than we give them credit for. But Alabama showed they can play and they can put up the points. So I think it'll be a dogfight. But we'll see.
We'll see what happens. Go Dogs. All right, let's talk about
Roll Tide. Next one on our slate is LSU Ole Miss.
All right.
I know there's a lot of talk going on in the media right now. Lane Kiffin's a little upset about playing the 3:30 game. LSU hasn't looked outstanding. They had that game against Clemson. It doesn't look like much of a win for LSU, and I think that's really their only statement win right now. That Florida doesn't look good. So I kind of like Ole Miss in this game. I think Lane Kiffin gets a big win here that he's kind of missed out on. And to turn the page and really set Ole Miss on the map. They've been competitive, but they haven't taken that last step they need to get at the top of the SEC. What are your thoughts?
I'm with you. I think Ole Miss wins this game. Clemson just does not look good. And if it was a normal Clemson team and I saw LSU win that big game, I might be more inclined to think LSU. But these home games and these big matchups in the SEC, the home field advantage is huge. Ole Miss is going to be fired up down there. They're going to be partying. I mean, that's a great tailgate school on the Grove down there. They're going to be fired up for that game. I think Ole Miss wins this game. I'm with you.
Yep. All right, turn it over to the other night game you mentioned a little bit earlier. Oregon at Penn State. It's a top 6 matchup, pretty big one. Normally, the hype's on Oregon's offense. They really can put up the points. I think the big thing that's talked about with Oregon this year is their defense. Normally, they're not extremely solid. I think they've got one of the best defenses in college football this year. And then Penn State returns everybody basically on offense. So, with the exception of Tyler Warren, who's lighting up the NFL. What are your thoughts here?
I think it's going to be a great game. I think Penn State needs a big game. I mean, I don't even know anything about Penn State so far because they really haven't played anybody.
They haven't played anybody.
And this is a big game for them. It's going to be interesting to watch to see if they're for real or not. I just don't know. And with that I don't know, I'm leaning Oregon. Mm-hmm. I honestly think that Dan Lanning's he's on my Mount Rushmore of current coaches right now. He's a great coach out of Oregon. He's recruiting well. I know they got a lot of money to play with, but he's an excellent coach. He's young. Players like to play for him. Mm-hmm. And like you said, they got a defense this year. And
that's where they've kind of lacked a little bit. Like you said, Penn State hasn't played anybody. And when it comes to the big game, they just haven't really been able to pull it off. When we're talking about the Michigans and the Ohio States and stuff, like they've always seemed to come up a little short. So I'm with you. I know Penn State's got some experience on the offensive side, but I'm going to lead with Oregon because of the same reasons. Their defense, coaching staff, kids play hard. He recruits well. I think Oregon goes into Penn State on the whiteout night and gets the W.
There you go. So, all right, I'm with you. I'm with you.
So the last one on the last ranked game we've got here is USC at Illinois. This is my lock of the week.
Okay.
So we'll talk. I know you were sold on Georgia for your lock. This is mine. USC going into Illinois as a favorite. I think it's just fishy. There's a reason Vegas is telling us that USC's the favorite. I know Illinois got dolly-whopped by Indiana at Indiana, but they didn't look good. They didn't look good at all. Offensively, defensively, special teams, it just wasn't a good thing. And USC can throw it and they can run it a little bit. So I think USC goes into Illinois. Illinois is a little beat down, and they dolly-whop Illinois here. So Illinois goes back-to-back on big losses, and they fall out of the top 25. That's where I'm at. So what are your thoughts, Scotty?
I have 2 thoughts. I'm not sure what a dollywop is, but you said that twice. There, so, all right.
It's the PC way of saying getting your butt whooped.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right, the dollywop. Man, it's a tough call. I watched a decent amount of the Indiana-Illinois game, and Illinois did not look good. But they're at home. I'd be inclined to take Illinois. So I'm going to say I'm going to take Illinois plus 6.5. Would love to see that go to 7, but I'm going to take Illinois in a rebound game there at plus 7. I think I'm not a big Indiana fan, but I think that Indiana looks damn good.
Yeah, like I said early on, I wasn't in favor of Indiana. They looked much better than I thought. Last year, they played 2 tough teams, and they lost both games, and everything else was a cakewalk. So they played a ranked team at home, and they put up a boatload of points. So they deserve a little credit for being much better than we thought early on. Totally. So I could see where Illinois has a bounce back, but USC coming over is just – I think the biggest difficulty will be the early time slot for USC. So
that's a good point.
That's the one thing that makes me nervous. Selecting USC as my lock, but I'm going to ride them hard there.
Okay.
So, all right, now let's turn it over to the NFL with our locks. We'll talk the games we like, and then we'll go with our locks. So, Scotty, let's talk a little bit. You pick the game you want to see, and it may be your lock or not.
Yeah. Well, the game I want to see and my lock is the same this week. Packers lost last week in a big-time upset.
Yes, very disappointing.
They did in a low-scoring upset. I know a lot of people's Survivor picks went down the tubes last week. So I want to see how they bounce back here against the Cowboys. And the Cowboys are just not looking that good. They're at home. You know, they're going to have a lot of fans out there. They're America's team, per se. But in this game, the Packers are low-scoring last week. I think the Packers win the game, but that's not my lock here. My lock is the over. The Packers did not score many points last week. Their offense did not look that good, and their offense is a lot better than that. The total's 47.5. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game both ways. I think the Cowboys are going to put the ball in the air. Actually, assuming Dak starts. I mean, he was pulled late in the game last week. But still, I think the over in this game is a lock. So I'm not very good in my NFL pick, so expect a low-scoring game. But my lock is over 47.5 in the Packers-Cowboys game.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous there. As you know, my lock last week was Cowboys-Bears over. We were close, but it was mostly because the Bears put up a boatload of points. I think the Packers offense is better than the Bears offense. They didn't show it against Cleveland. I think Cleveland is sneaky good on the defensive side, and they don't get enough credit. So I'm a little nervous about that pick on your over. But I agree. The Packers do have to have a bounce back, and I think they can score 30 points themselves on this Cowboys team. And like you said, there's a little uncertainty in Dallas, and I know Jerry Jones is itching to show that he made a good move in getting rid of Micah Parsons, and there's a separate storyline of Parsons coming back to Dallas, and everything going on there. So I'm not sure. I'm hesitant because the Cowboys let me down last week, but I can see why you're going with that pick. But we'll turn it over to mine. It's not a big game necessarily as everybody's looking to see, but it is at its own time slot. It is in Dublin, Ireland. It's a 9:30 game, so we get one of those international games. It's Vikings at Steelers. I think the Vikings are favored in this game for some reason. Only thing I could think of is that they kicked the crap out of Cincinnati with a backup quarterback in Carson Wentz.
Yep.
I think Pittsburgh is a different beast. They've looked pretty good. They beat my Patriots this week. Even though the Patriots had a chance, they turned the ball over 5 times. They probably should have won that game. My lock of the week is the Steelers in Dublin beating Minnesota. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I like that game. I like your pick. Sorry. I think that's a good pick. I looked at this game. I was looking through the games, and I was thinking, like, is there a more boring game on the schedule this week than this game? I actually, for our fantasy pick, was thinking about saying the sit everybody in this game because I couldn't even think of who's going to do well. Justin Jefferson could do well, but I just feel like it's going to be a dud game. So I like the Steelers in that game with that pick. I think taking the points is a smooth move there. So I'm with you.
All right. So those are our locks for the NFL. We're going to talk a little fantasy before we wrap it up. So we had some success last week with our starts and sits. Well, my start was awful. I can't say that. I was 50%. Wan'Dale Robinson, I don't think even showed up to play the football game. But sitting Chase Brown was pretty smart in that blowout against the Vikings.
Smart.
So, Scotty, let's start with you. Who's your start of the week this week in fantasy football?
My start of the week is, who was my lock of the week last week, was the Rams. Kyren Williams had a good game there, and I think that showcased that they have solid running game. They have some good backups as well, but Kyren Williams caught a lot of passes, went over 100 yards. He has a nose for the end zone. I expect him to have a good week this week. I would start Kyren Williams with confidence this week.
Absolutely. He did look really good. Speaking of Kyren Williams, I had a trade offer to me in the Dynasty League. Here, I want your thoughts on it. I was offered Kyren Williams and a second-round pick next year in the Dynasty Draft and for Rashee Rice and a third-round pick. What are your thoughts there? Would you give up Rashee for Kyren Williams?
I think I would in that situation. I think I would.
Fair enough.
It's an interesting trade offer, though. I'll have to talk more about that
offline. But I thought that was interesting that your lock was Kyren Williams because that was just I was approached about that trade. So I wanted a little feedback, and we'll talk more offline.
Yeah.
I'm going for my start of the week, I'm going Jake Ferguson from the game you're talking about. With CeeDee Lamb out, Ferguson I think is going to get even more targets and should get some receptions. He's pretty sure-handed. He's had 9 receptions. He's averaged 9 receptions in the first 3 games. He hasn't gotten in the end zone. I think this is a week where he does get in, especially with CD out. So I'm leaning on the tight end, and I'm going Jake Ferguson.
Yeah, I like that pick. I thought about going George Pickens, but it seemed too easy of a pick. with CD Lamb out. Pickens has been playing great this year. I'm not sure if he hasn't been the best receiver on that team to start the season.
I think so. He just had an unfortunate turnover in that game last week that kind of cost him. So I just think the Packers without CD can really double up on him and make it a little more difficult. I think there's been some success there because they can't just focus on him like they did in Pittsburgh.
True.
So turn the page over, Scotty. Who's your sit of the week?
I'm going to be brief on my sit because I think it's pretty obvious, but I just want to put it out there on record, and they did not look good last week, is I'm going to say you got to sit T. Higgins. I think he was a lock start, as it's kind of what you're saying. Next door he's playing next to Jamar Chase, who's going to see all the attention. T. Higgins with Burrow in there was going to, I think, have a really good year because he was going to get a lot of one-on-one coverage with secondary cornerbacks, but I think you got to sit him now. I can't see the Bengals after last week doing a whole lot. So I think he's a sit until he proves us otherwise.
Absolutely. I think until they get another quarterback. Jake Browning just turns the ball over too much. I think they've got a little faith in him, but I think that'll dwindle pretty quickly. So I'm with you. I think that's a must sit.
Who you got?
I'm going quarterback.
Okay.
He hasn't looked great for the first couple games, and I know he's dealing with not having one of his top receivers, but CJ Stroud has not looked good. He hasn't thrown for over 205 yards on the year. I think he's got most a touchdown a game, and I know they're playing the Titans, but I think the Titans go and get the first Cam Ward's first win because the Texans do not look good.
Wow.
So I would say sit CJ Stroud. And the other thing that goes with that is if he doesn't get a win here and look good, his schedule gets even worse. I think they could be looking for a really down year. So I think there may be some talk about CJ Stroud not being a guy if he doesn't perform here. And I just don't think it's possible right now the way he looks.
Yeah. All right, interesting pick. I'll be interested to see how that plays out. For sure. Yeah, CJ Stroud. He's not looking so good so far.
Not at all. So that'll do it for us on the Blitz. Be sure to check us out on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at CYA Sideline Podcast.
All right, we'll see you next time.
See you next time, guys.